We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including a lot of NHL preseason action. Hockey is officially back in the preseason form. We'll discuss some of the early results and some of the players that have been standing out so far in the early action, plus lots of trade talk around the NHL, including some trade talk around the Toronto Maple Leafs, as well as around Sidney Crosby. Elliotte Friedman made some interesting comments, wondering about the future of Crosby and where he may go if he does indeed decide that he's willing to move on from the Penguins before he retires. The latest on Kaprizov, one NHL insider, wonders if that might trend towards a trade as well, even though the Wild are not crazy about that at the moment. With the latest on Kyle Connor, an extension with the Winnipeg Jets. The latest on Luke Hughes getting a new contract with the New Jersey Devils as well. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. A busy day of preseason action around the NHL. Of course, we're now a number of days in the training camp, and we're starting to get the first bit of games here, which is fun to see. Actually, something on TV to watch in hockey, which is very nice after a long break. But unfortunately, we're going to start the video off with some more sad news. The NHL and the world of hockey has unfortunately lost another hockey legend. This has been happening too many times here recently, and it's unfortunately to another goaltender. It's been a string of long-time goalies, unfortunately, leaving us here recently, which is really sad for the game and, of course, just for their families, of course. But Flyers legend Bernie Parent, unfortunately, has passed away at the age of 80. Bernie Parent had a pretty solid career, mostly known for his time with the Philadelphia Flyers, where he played the bulk of his time. Certainly one of the more, I think you could fair to say, one of the game's more famous personalities. Always had a big smile, known for that infectious smile. Always gracious with his teammates. It seemed like you could just tell how much he loved the game. Played over 600 games, regular season hockey, lots of playoff hockey as well. Was a two-time Stanley Cup winner with the Philadelphia Flyers, and you could argue that the Flyers don't win those cups without him. In both of those seasons, he also won the Vezina and the Conn Smythe. So clearly, like I said, to be playoff MVP multiple times is not something you see very many people accomplish, and he's just a special talent that really was a huge part of those Flyers teams that brought the cup home. And like I said, obviously it's a little bit before my time, but from what I've seen and obviously research and I've gone and seen a lot of the old footage and everything, and I don't think they win those cups without him. I really don't. So unfortunately, we've lost another great hockey legend. I certainly want to pass along our condolences to any friends, family, or anybody close to Bernie. Certainly, like I said, one of the greats, and not only that, but just a great personality and big smile that we're going to miss. So, of course, as I mentioned, we got lots of preseason action here today as well. We had one game yesterday that was, which I didn't get to in yesterday's video. We had the Stars and the Blues do battle. It was a 2-1 victory for the Dallas Stars. We saw first-round pick of the Blues, Justin Carbonneau, get his first taste of NHL action and get his first goal. Of course, not going to count in the record books. But still, Maverick Bourque and Sam Steele scored for the Dallas Stars. We have a renewal of the Battle of Ontario today. It was early in the afternoon. The Sens and Leafs playing in Ottawa today. It was a more veteran Sens team and a more young Leaf team. The Leafs did pick up the road, winning 4-3. Not a good first period at all for the Senators. The defensive coverage was bad in a few cases. The Leafs took advantage, and the Leafs, I think, kind of settled in. The Senators, in my opinion, were the better team for the second and third periods, but unfortunately made the game close and interesting. But the Leafs do get the win. To me, a couple of the players that were looking to stand out looked real good. I know on the Leafs side, Nick Robertson, I thought had a good game, had a goal. Obviously somebody who's fighting for a roster spot. I thought Easton Cowan had some good moments. Didn't really do a lot, offensively, officially, but had some good bursts and had some good shifts. On the Ottawa side, Arthur Kaliev got a big goal. Looked good on the power play. 5-on-5 was a little bit less noticeable. Jordan Spence, though, a new acquisition for the Sens, I thought also looked really, really good as well. So players that are trying to impress, whether they're new or fighting for a roster spot, I think were the most players to me to stick out in that game. Tyler Clevin unfortunately got hurt for the Sens. I don't know what the update is on him. There hasn't been one here just yet. I know the Panthers and the Predators were doing a split game. The Panthers lost the first one 5-0 to the Preds. Second game was still going on as I record this, and it was a big Preds lead at that point. Caps were playing the Bruins today. Washington won 5-2. Milano had a couple of big goals. Another player fighting for a roster spot, having a good showing. The Kings were victorious over the Ducks 3-1 today as well. Turcotte and Clark had a pretty good showing there for LA. The Rangers beat the Devils 5-3. Gabe Perreault with a nice goal as well for the Rangers. So lots of younger players and like I said, players fighting for roster spots having good showings today. There was lots of other action. Not all of it was complete as I start to record this, so don't have the full scope of everything, but it is still the preseason. So I was going to remind everybody, don't get too high or too low and don't put too much stock into these results. No team right now is playing a roster that is going to be what you see on opening night. There's a combination of veterans and players, like I said, either rookies or guys fighting for spots. And veteran guys in the preseason, they're looking to get their timing down, they're looking to get their legs under them, and they're looking to maybe form a little chemistry with guys they might be playing with. And the big thing is to try not to get hurt. So in all honesty, I just don't, like I said, you can't put a lot of stock in it. I've seen teams have horrible preseasons and start the regular season off great. I've seen teams have great preseasons, have like 5 or 6, undefeated wins, and at the same time have a horrible start. So like, you just don't get too high and too low on the results. I'm looking for, personally, when I'm watching, I'm looking for players that are looking to stick out and trying to win spots, and rookies that might make the jump to the NHL. Those are kind of the bigger stories to kind of look out for here, in my opinion. Another injury as well, the Kraken did announce today that Jared McCann is considered day-to-day with a lower body injury. We'll miss a little bit of time here in the preseason as well. Now, a bunch of updates. We got some trade talk. We got some signing rumors. We'll start with Luke Evangelista and the Nashville Predators. The latest there from TSN's Darren Dreger. The last update we had just in the last probably 48 hours was that there was still a gap, but he was in Nashville. Now that's changed. Evangelista has taken his stuff and he's gone home back to Canada. His agents kind of recommended that for right now. So clearly they must get the feeling that it's going to be a long, drawn-out process and probably going to dig in both sides here. Now, there's still a significant gap. I think one thing that seems to be okay is that both sides are in agreement on a 2-year deal, but there's a big gap here in money. So we'll have to see what happens there. Like I said before, I know some insiders earlier in the offseason said that out of all the remaining RFAs that were still unsigned, they thought that might be the most likely scenario that could result in a trade, but it may not happen right away. Sometimes these negotiations get quite contentious and they get something done, but sometimes it impacts things long term. So we'll have to see. I don't know. It sounds like there's a big gap there. With considering how freewheeling Barry Trotz was spending money on these veteran guys that didn't perform last year, it's crazy to me to think how much of a fight they're having over one of their young players who could be a big part of their future. But that's just me on that one. I know Luke Hughes is another unsigned RFA looking to make a return to the team and get into camp here before the season gets too far along. Right now, all the reports indicate that both sides are focused on getting a long-term deal done. I don't think there's any real concerns that way, that there's, definitely not a case of him not wanting to be there or the team not wanting him. Like, it's really very just slow going. There was reports about Luke wanting a 5-year deal to match the expiration of his brother's contract. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but has been out there. But a lot of the indications now that they're both focused on long term, so we'll see. But right now, there's no indications that they're any closer. But at least they're on the same page for term from what we're hearing now, and hopefully they'll get that resolved soon. As we said before, one deadline that kind of gets things moving along is when players start missing paychecks. So we'll see where that one goes. So obviously, like I said, Evangelista and Hughes, we talked a lot about McTavish yesterday. Obviously, he's gone back home, training in Ottawa as well with the junior club of 67. So we'll see. Kyle Connor's another one to watch. Now, he's a different scenario. He's not on an expired deal. Of course, he's a pending unrestricted free agent, but a big part of the Jets team. The Winnipeg Jets and Kyle Connor, according to Chris Johnston, are very, very likely to come to terms on a deal. The expectation is that they will get it sorted out and he will end up re-signing to stay there. The belief is he wants to remain a Jet, and they're quite content to have him there for a long time as well. So at least the mutual feeling to get something done is there, which is obviously very important. It's believed that he's probably going to push the Jets to their upper limit of what they're comfortable with, because we know, being a smaller market team, that as the cap goes up, it could get more challenging for them. So that's going to be a situation to watch. Maybe not so much with this one. I think they'll get Connor done, but as other guys eventually come up, thankfully they got Hellebuyck and Scheifele on long-term deals before the cap started to explode. But we'll see about other guys here down the road, as guys like Perfetti and like Morrissey's next contract, which is still a ways away too. So thankfully they get a lot of their top guys locked up long-term. So that'll be key to watch in a smaller market as the cap gets going here, moving up in the next few years. It may not be as much of an even keel, as we've seen across the league over the last number of years. It's not just about a no state tax anymore. It's going to be Canadian teams with a low Canadian dollar paying their players in U.S. money, which is challenging enough as it is. And then with a bigger number, it's even that much more challenging. So hopefully it doesn't affect them too much, but we'll see. With the Leafs, I know James Myrtle for The Athletic, his latest Leaf Report podcast says he would be surprised if Nick Robertson was still a Leaf by November. Now, that's interesting. Like I said, I think Nick Robertson had a good showing today in the first preseason game. Again, you can't put a lot of stock into the preseason, but if he keeps playing the way he did, even if the Leafs decide that he's not part of their future, he will have enough interest in other teams that they shouldn't really be too difficult to get a deal done. What they need to decide here is they have a glutton of forwards in the Leaf organization, and clearly it's a scenario where they just can't keep them all. They're gonna either lose somebody on one or two guys on waivers. They need to make some trades. They got to do something. They could use the cap flexibility as well by moving some bodies out, and it's been something that's been discussed here for quite a long time, and it has not really happened yet. So we'll see. But Robertson's one of those guys that's in the last few years, it just seems like no matter what he does, he just can't seem to get a break to be in the lineup all the time and get a regular top 6 spot. I've got the feeling too, looking at their lineup, that I'm not sure where he fits, and his job, I guess, is just to keep making it difficult on him to keep playing well. And even if it's not in Toronto, he will get the attention of other teams, and they will be able to make a move at some point. So we'll see. I do agree with Myrtle's assessment that it seems like, from what we've seen, but that he could be one of the early trades for Toronto. But depending on where things are at and what the injury situation is with the team going into the regular season, if he gets an opportunity because of injuries to play in the top 6, for example, and he's taking advantage of it, he could make it challenging on them. Maybe that doesn't happen, but we will see where that goes. Now, a couple other big names that we want to talk about here tonight. One, Kirill Kaprizov. We know that the reports are out there, have been for about a week now, that he rejected the largest contract in NHL history from the Minnesota Wild. A lot of people were initially convinced he doesn't want to be there. That doesn't seem to be necessarily the case. But I know the latest comments from Darren Dreger today on the situation with Kaprizov in the Minnesota Wild certainly make it sound like he wonders if it could be ending up in a trade longer term. He said, obviously, Bill Guerin and the Minnesota Wild don't want it to get to that point. It's not something they're really crazy about thinking about or doing right now. They're still focused on signing him, clearly, but he's starting to wonder if it does end up getting there, and that a trade could indeed happen after all. Now, of course, like I said, it does not mean that Kaprizov absolutely doesn't want to be there. It could mean that he really likes being there, but he wants to be there for the right price, right contract, right? Everybody's got a price, as they say, back in the old $1 Million Man from the WWE days. And his price with the Wild, if it's not met, I mean, they're going to have limits. We heard the owner, Craig Leopold, and Bill Guerin both say that they're going to offer him, a crazy good contract, and there's just, they're confident they're going to get it done. Well, they haven't gotten it done. And if Elliot Friedman's assessment on that situation is anywhere accurate, saying they must be confident that another team will come along and offer him $18, $19, $20 million if he's a free agent next year. If they've got that in the back of their mind and the Wild need to up the ante here, how high can they go? I mean, obviously there is max here. When you're looking at signing a contract extension, it is 20% of the cap as the maximum number, and it's based on the current cap today, not the future cap. So they can only go by that number. So if they're projecting out a couple of years, they're looking at another cap increase next year. And a lot of these top players need to decide, is it worth it for me to sign now, or should I sign later? Like, if you're looking at it from a money perspective, you're looking at it from an opportunity to win perspective, really boils down to what's most important to that player. And of course, with Kaprizov, we really don't fully know. I mean, obviously, I know he has spoken to the media. He did say, I love being in Minnesota. But again, like I said, maybe he loves it being there under the right contract. I mean, that does play a role. You have to wonder about the future of the team as well. I mean, we know the Wild have been a team that's been kind of in and out of the playoffs. They haven't had playoff success. How much is he looking at that saying, I'd like to go to another team for a better chance to win? Or is he looking at it from, better place to live, more money? Like, we don't really know what's most important to Kaprizov, partially due to a little bit of a limitation in the language barrier. But, his English has been gotten better for sure during his time in the NHL. But he hasn't really spoken that much for, in what his, long-term, like what his needs are, I guess you could say, right? So interesting to see. I mean, obviously Jagger's a well-connected insider. For him to say that he wonders if it's trending towards a trade will be interesting. Obviously, Kaprizov has a full say in this as well, so it's going to be tricky for Minnesota to pull this off. And it could hurt their leverage for sure. I mean, we've heard about teams that would be interested, and I guarantee if Kaprizov's officially on the market, if it reaches that point, there will be tons of them. So we'll see. Now, another situation I want to monitor and take a look at here is Elliotte Friedman was appearing on another podcast and talking about Crosby and his future. Of course, this podcast was kind of based around I believe they're more of a Habs-based podcast, so they're obviously looking at the future of Crosby. Could he come to Montreal? All those types of things. They talked about Lane Hudson and his contract extension, all that type of stuff. And his comments on Crosby says that, from what he's always known, and this is what we've heard from a variety of places, that his first choice was always to be a Penguin for his whole career. Always wants to be a Penguin. And that's not shocking. That won't surprise anybody. But people around him in the last little while have been trying to get through to him and say, like, listen, if the team keeps losing and keeps missing the playoffs, you really need to consider moving to another team. I think a lot of people think it's better for the game to have Crosby in the playoffs. I mean, and I don't think anybody can really dispute that. He's one of the top players of all time. He's had a great career. He's still performing at a very high level. So, yeah, getting him on a team in the playoffs, it certainly helps the league, helps the game. There's no doubt about that. But Ellie did say that, because of that, he's starting to wonder if Crosby's been thinking about it more. Doesn't mean he's going to come to the conclusion that he will leave and end up going to another team. But when asked, do you think it's possible he could come to the Habs? He says that he doesn't think it's impossible. That if he does decide that he's willing to leave Pittsburgh, that there would be a small list of teams that he'd be willing to go to, and he does believe that Montreal would be one of them. Now, so obviously, like I said, I know Crosby to the Habs thing has been like a hot topic for the last number of months, off and on. And really, like, Crosby's going to call his own shots. That's the thing. It's not going to be up to the Habs. It's not going to be up to the Penguins. It's going to be up to Sidney Crosby himself. He's going to go wherever he wants to go. If he decides to talk to Kyle Dubas and the Penguins and say, okay, I can't take this losing anymore, I'm willing to go to another team, here's where I want to go. Like, I don't know that he even gives them a small list. I mean, I think there's a couple of teams that he would consider. I have to think that because of the connection of growing up a Habs fan, his dad was drafted there. There's been, like I said, long connection there. You have to also, I mean, I think it's fair to throw in the Avalanche because of the relationship with McKinnon. I think they love playing together, and they've really enjoyed it with Team Canada at the Four Nations. They're going to get a chance to do it again at the Olympic Games, and I have to think that would be intriguing to him as well. I'm not really sure where else. I know there was an article back a few weeks ago that threw like 3 or 4 teams in there into the mix. I'm not really sure where else he would really go, to be honest. I know one of them mentioned Ottawa briefly, but I'm like, I don't see the connection. Like, I mean, this doesn't make sense. I mean, Montreal has long been connected because of the historical purpose there and, whatever, in the Avalanche. I don't know. I'm not really sure. To me, I don't see him going anywhere else. I think it'd be like, I do agree with Elliotte. If he ever leaves Pittsburgh, it is going to be a very short list and only a few options would be considered, and we'll see. But to hear Elliotte say he believes it is possible, I agree with him. But at the same time, it is very much going to be his call. So I don't think you're going to really be hearing rumors that the Penguins are shopping him or that the Habs are inquiring. It's really going to be boiled down to Crosby. If it ever leaks out, Crosby's made up his mind. He's willing to move. Here's believe where he's interested in going, and then we'll see what happens and go from there. But he will call his own shot. He's earned that right, and that's just the way it's going to play out if indeed it does end up happening. Like I said yesterday, in the last day or two, we've been talking about the rumor from RG.org and Jimmy Murphy talking about the Habs also had a lot of interest in Malkin. Now, of course, we know that both guys can play center. They're both long-time, very successful centermen. The Habs definitely could benefit from adding a veteran centerman into their lineup. Obviously, they're not going to go get both, but yeah, it'd be interesting that they're connected to both guys. I mean, I don't think it's any doubt if they had their pick that Crosby would be the guy. So we'll see where it goes. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you agree with Elliott? It is possible. Let me know what you think, though. I do. Personally, it's going to be Crosby's going to call his own shot here. He's not leaving Pittsburgh if he doesn't want to leave Pittsburgh. Obviously, he's got a no-move clause anyway, so it's 100% his call, not only for him to leave, but where he goes as well. I think any team would love to have him, and they'll move mountains to get him if they need to, if they have that opportunity. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.